Hey everyone, welcome back to Next Generation. We finally have gotten a Staghorn Fern, and if you're wondering what that is, it's one of these guys. So it's this awesome plant, which if you don't know, it grows kind of like an air plant, which if you don't know what that is, then maybe you should just look it all up in general. But it doesn't grow like a regular plant in soil, just in a garden or in the ground. In a natural environment, it grows off of like trees and things like that. So in today's video, we will be building a little mount to make this guy a lot happier. So if you don't know about these plants, the reason why we have been wanting one forever is because they grow forever. We will probably have this plant until we're old, and it will probably live longer than us, honestly. Rich's dad has one that is huge. He's had it probably like 10 years now. I've also seen a 50-year-old one that was so huge it was hanging from like a boat crank. It was insane. So we were inspired to get one of our own so that we can watch it grow. This is probably the only plant that we own that will live the longest. The sad part is we've had it for probably a month or two now. But we're finally going to film this video and build it a little mount and make it a lot happier. I'm going to show you guys some tips on how to take care of it because it is, like I mentioned, a lot different than a regular plant. I am not a plant person at all, but if you would like to learn what I've learned on Google, researching all of the things that you should know about this, then just keep watching. So the first thing you're obviously going to need is your plant. So it's called a Staghorn Fern, and here's the spelling. I got mine from Lowe's. It was extremely inexpensive. I think it was around $6 or $7. It was a lot smaller than this. Like I mentioned, we got it a little while ago, so it has gotten a little bit bigger and grown a few more. I think these are called fronds from when we bought it. So next up, you'll need a piece of wood that you're going to use as your mount. Here I have a piece of Japanese cedar, and this is such a beautiful piece of wood. I obviously am going to keep it as is, but you can of course stain it, seal it, finish it with whatever you would like, but I'll be leaving it as is because it has such a beautiful grain, and the color on it I just am obsessed with. I like how it goes from light to dark, so it does give you some color variety. I do recommend using some type of wood that can get wet constantly because you will be watering and caring for this, so you are going to need some type of wood that can withstand water and it won't mildew or fall apart. Cedar is probably the best option for longevity of your mount, and I got mine in a 1x6 by 8 foot board. Of course, you can use any other type of material you would like. Next up, you're going to need 4 screws, and you do want some pretty long screws. I believe these are like 1.25 inches or 1 5/8 inches, between 1 inch and 2 inches. They need to be able to go in half of your board, so that's half of 1 inch, and you need it to stick out at least another half of 1 inch. So anything between 1 to 2 inch screws, you will need 4 of those. Hi guys, future me here. You're actually going to need 8 of these screws total, not just 4, so definitely account for that. Next up, you'll need some clear wire or a fishing wire. So I'm just using this jewelry wire that I already had at home, and it's called illusion cord, and I'll have everything linked down below in the description if you're interested in purchasing any of this. You will also need a hook so that you can hang up your mount if you are planning to hang up your fern on the wall. I like to use these D-rings when I'm hanging up anything pretty heavy up on the wall. And lastly, you will need some moss. So here I have preserved sheet moss. So that is everything that we need to make it. We're gonna go ahead and jump right into the video, even though we already have. So I'm first going to take a look at my plant to see how big I want the mount. I'm going to measure the height to see about how tall it is and go a lot taller than that because I do want my plant to be able to grow into the mount. If you make your mount way too small, your plant may eventually grow out of it because these do tend to get pretty large over time. So to avoid having to make this within the next couple of years, I'm gonna make mine a lot larger than what I probably would for this size plant. I don't know why I'm using this tape measure, but this is about 13 inches tall total. So I think I'm gonna make the mount around 24 inches. And as you can see, this would obviously fit just fine on one board, but instead of just using one of these, I'm gonna go ahead and cut 2 of them at 24 inches so that I can put them side by side and make it double the width. So it's 6 inches now. I want it to be 12 inches across and then 24 long. So while I'm outside cutting, I'm also gonna cut 2 2-inch pieces, and I'll show you guys why once we're finished cutting. But I just wanted to throw that out there now so you can make all of your cuts at one time. And I am gonna lightly sand the edges of the 24-inch pieces because they are gonna be a little bit sharp from cutting it with the saw. boards cut, we're gonna go ahead and put them together. So the first thing we're gonna do is choose the side that we want as the front, and we're gonna flip it upside down. So now working on the back side of our mount, we're gonna take our 2-inch pieces that we cut from our board and place those at around the top and bottom of your boards. I'm gonna go ahead and add 2 screws to each of those to secure everything together. This is how you can tell if the screw is too long or too short for where you're trying to place it. So I recommend just double checking. While we have the mount upside down, we're gonna go ahead and attach our hook on the back as well. Alright guys, so now for the fun part of this DIY, we're gonna go ahead and attach our fern to the front of our mount. And the way we're gonna do that is, I'm first gonna place the fern on the front of our mount to kind of figure out where exactly I want it mounted and lightly draw out the diameter of our fern. Then we're gonna take it off of the mount and go ahead and attach our screws. We're adding 4 to the front, and you don't wanna screw them all the way in. You wanna screw them about half of the way into your wood. You should drill in your screws at a bit of an angle so that it'll be easier when we go to attach everything. So now that we have our screws attached, I'm gonna go ahead and take our clear wire and I'm going to tie it to one of the screws really tightly. Because soil isn't necessary for this fern, we are gonna try to get most of it out before we mount it on to our structure. So we're gonna go ahead and do that before we attach him on. Alright, so now that our fern is all cleaned out and ready to attach, we're going to take a little piece of our sheet moss and put that at the bottom. You're then going to put your fern right on top of that and then add more of the moss all around the base of the fern. You want to be sure to be extra careful around the brown leaves at the bottom of your fern. So carefully lift those up and tuck your moss underneath there. And once you have it all covered up the way you like it, we're gonna go ahead and attach everything together. So taking our clear wire that we have already attached to our screw, we're gonna go ahead and secure our fern onto the mount. Again, you wanna be extra careful around your brown leaves because if you do wrap the wire around those brown leaves, it could cut into them and break them apart. So once it feels like your fern is secure to the mount, you can go ahead and tie a knot on the end of your wire. I do have a few tips as far as caring for the fern. These leaves that grow at the top, that's how it absorbs most of its nutrients. So misting it directly on these leaves is how it's going to retain all the moisture. Also, you can add some plant food in there if you would like. These plants don't like direct light, but they do like bright light. So I do recommend having it in a really bright part of your home that doesn't get extreme direct sunlight. I'm gonna be putting mine outside in indirect light because I live in New Orleans and it's so humid here that it suffocates you. That's the type of weather that this plant likes. But if you don't live in a place like that that's extremely humid, then I recommend keeping yours indoors and misting it every single day. Also, it's recommended to give it kind of like a water bath. So this is why I recommended building this on a piece of wood that can be submerged in water or be extremely wet all the time, because that's what this plant is gonna like. The way that you can do this is you can just take your entire mount and put it into a sink or a bathtub or anywhere where you can completely submerge it until the leaves are just kind of poking out of the water like this. So the whole base and the moss and everything is completely submerged in the water. So those are just some additional steps that you can take to make your staghorn extra happy. If you have any tips or ways that you would have mounted yours, materials you would have used, or any other extra ideas, then definitely leave that down below in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see y'all in my next video. Bye guys.
Let me see. How'd you do that? I love that. Oh my god, that's so awesome.
You like it?
Yeah, I love it. Are you kidding me? You did that?
No.
I love it. It looks so good. Holy crap.
Wasn't that cool?
Dang, look at you, little profesh.
Are you impressed?
I'm very impressed. Some nice wood. You did the wire and everything?
Mm-hmm.
You did it right. It's so cool. I love it.
I added some twine around it just to make it extra secure in case you're curious. I like how it looks. It's so secure on there too.